Imagine a fabric so luxurious, so coveted, that it nearly bankrupted the greatest empire of the ancient world. This isn't a myth, it's the true story of silk, China's most guarded secret and Rome's most expensive obsession. For centuries, this delicate thread would weave together two distant civilizations in a dangerous dance of desire and depletion. Our story begins in ancient China, where, according to legend, Empress Lizu discovered silk around 2700 BCE. She noticed silkworms spinning cocoons in her garden and unraveled the first silk thread. For millennia, China would guard this secret with imperial decree, revealing silk production methods meant execution. Silk wasn't just fabric, it was power. Chinese emperors wore elaborate silk robes as symbols of divine authority. Silk became currency, diplomatic gifts, and military rewards. The Han Dynasty established state-controlled silk workshops, creating a monopoly that would last for centuries. Meanwhile, across the world, Rome was reaching its zenith. By the 1st century CE, the Roman Empire stretched from Britain to Egypt. Roman aristocrats lived in unprecedented luxury, constantly seeking new status symbols to display their wealth and power. The first silk reached Rome around 53 BCE, when Roman soldiers encountered Parthian banners made of the mysterious fabric during the Battle of Carrhae. The Romans were mesmerized. They had never seen anything so light, so lustrous, so impossibly luxurious. Roman women, particularly, became obsessed. Silk garments were scandalously sheer, clinging to the body in ways wool and linen never could. Conservative senators like Pliny the Elder complained that silk made women naked in public, but this only increased its allure. The demand exploded. A pound of raw silk cost its weight in gold in Rome. Senators paid fortunes for silk tunics, while emperors draped themselves in purple-dyed silk, reserved only for royalty. Silk became the ultimate display of wealth and status. But there was a problem. Rome produced nothing China wanted in return. While Rome craved silk, China had little interest in Roman goods. The Chinese wanted only one thing from the West, silver, and thus began history's first massive trade imbalance. The Silk Road wasn't a single road, but a network of trade routes stretching 4,000 miles from China to Rome. Caravans of camels carried silk westward through deserts and mountains, facing bandits, extreme weather, and political instability at every turn. Middlemen grew wealthy, controlling the trade. Parthian, Sogdian, and Kushan merchants acted as intermediaries, each taking their cut. By the time silk reached Rome, its price had multiplied 100-fold from its original cost in China. Roman silver flowed east in staggering quantities. Historians estimate Rome was sending 100 million sesterces worth of silver to the east annually, equivalent to the entire Roman military budget. The empire was literally buying its own decline. Roman leaders grew alarmed. Emperor Tiberius tried banning silk, calling it immoral and economically destructive. But the bans failed. The elite's addiction was too strong. Even the threat of execution couldn't stop the silk trade. The economic impact was devastating. Rome began debasing its currency, mixing silver with cheaper metals to stretch their dwindling reserves. Inflation soared, trust in Roman money collapsed, and the economy entered a death spiral. Meanwhile, in China, the silver influx created unprecedented wealth. The Han Dynasty treasury overflowed with Roman silver, funding massive public works, military expansion, and cultural flourishing. China grew stronger as Rome grew weaker. Roman writers began noticing the crisis. Pliny the Elder calculated that Rome was losing 100 million sesterces annually to Eastern trade. He warned, "So dearly do we pay for our luxury and our women." But his warnings went unheeded. The military consequences were dire. With silver reserves depleted, Rome couldn't properly pay its soldiers. Legionaries grew discontented, leading to mutinies and civil wars. The very foundation of Roman power, its military, was crumbling. Desperate for solutions, Rome tried everything. They attempted to breed silkworms in secret, but without mulberry leaves, the worms died. They sent envoys to steal the secret, but Chinese guards protected the knowledge fiercely. The crisis peaked in the 3rd century CE. The Roman Empire nearly collapsed during the crisis of the 3rd century. 26 emperors reigned in 50 years, most assassinated. Economic collapse, barbarian invasions, and civil war tore the empire apart. Chinese sources noticed Rome's decline. The Book of Later Han recorded that Dakin, their name for Rome, was declining and fragmented. China continued prospering while its distant trading partner unraveled. The Eastern Roman Empire, based in Constantinople, fared slightly better. They eventually discovered the silk secret in the 6th century CE when Byzantine monks smuggled silkworm eggs out of China in hollow walking sticks. But for the Western Roman Empire, it was too late. When Rome finally fell in 476 CE, multiple factors contributed, but the silk-induced economic hemorrhage had weakened the empire for centuries. The luxury that defined Roman elite life helped destroy it. The legacy of this trade imbalance is profound. It established patterns we still see today, consumer nations draining wealth to producer nations. Rome's silk addiction was history's first warning about trade deficits and luxury consumption. China's silk monopoly demonstrates the power of controlling advanced technology. For over 3,000 years, China maintained this advantage through secrecy and state control. It was perhaps history's longest-running technological monopoly. The cultural impact was equally significant. Silk created the first truly global luxury brand. It connected East and West, sparked exploration, and created networks that would shape world history for millennia. Roman attitudes towards silk reveal much about their society. The moral panic over immodest silk clothing shows how luxury challenges social norms. The conflict between traditional values and new desires tore at Roman identity. Modern economists study the Roman silk crisis as an early example of Dutch disease, when natural resource exports, in China's case, silk, create currency imbalances that harm other economies. Rome was the first victim of this economic phenomenon. The environmental impact was also significant. Roman demand drove massive mulberry cultivation in China, changing landscapes. Silk production required enormous amounts of water and labor, creating environmental pressures we still face with luxury goods. What if Rome had resisted the silk temptation? Could the empire have survived longer? Historians debate this counterfactual, but most agree the silver drain significantly accelerated Rome's decline, making recovery impossible. The story continues today. China has regained its position as the world's leading silk producer. Modern luxury brands still covet Chinese silk, and global trade imbalances still shape international relations. History echoes in surprising ways. So what lessons can we learn from this ancient economic drama? First, that luxury consumption has real consequences. Second, that trade imbalances can destabilize empires. And third, that controlling advanced technology creates lasting power. The next time you see silk, remember, this delicate fabric once held empires in its threads. It bankrupted Rome, enriched China, and taught the world that even the mightiest civilization can be undone by its own desires. Luxury, it seems, has always come with a hidden price.